They say it takes a good man to admit when he was wrong. And boy was I wrong, because Jujutsu Kaisen might actually be one of the best pieces of fiction I've ever watched in my whole life. The season 1 at least, because I haven't watched the rest. But after years and years of people telling me to watch it, me, as what I would call myself to be an anime enjoyer, refused to watch it, along with Demon Slayer and what's the other one? Fire Force. Those are the top 3 animes I refuse to watch. Every time somebody was talking to me about one of those, I was dismissing it right away. Fire Force, Demon Slayer, and Jujutsu Kaisen. But my little brother finally convinced me to just give it a try. And boy, I'm glad he did, because this is actually the best anime I've watched in the recent years, along with Vinland Saga. I kinda expected Jujutsu Kaisen to be another bootleg Naruto, with just like, the whole synopsis of it was just kinda corny to me. Oh, another guy with a demon inside of him joins a new group of people to fight demons. That's the basis of it, and when you just hear it that way, it does kinda sound generic. But the execution of the story is done so brilliantly that it actually made me create a whole YouTube channel just to talk about it. So I want to separate this video in different points, each point talking about a reason why I like this show so much. So, without wasting any time, let's talk about the story in itself. And, disclaimer, this video will have spoilers. The first season has been released for like 6 years now, so at least for season 1 this video will contain spoilers because I haven't watched the rest of it. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Jujutsu Kaisen has a pretty generic story. My analysis of it wasn't wrong. It is just a guy with a demon inside of him joining a group of guys to fight other demons. This story is not on the level of other animes and mangas like Attack on Titan or Death Note. This is not what this story is. It's a very simple, generic, and efficient story. But what makes it stand out the most from all the other new gen animes I've watched are the characters. Every character has its own unique personality, motivations, fears, backstory, insecurities, and philosophy. And I found myself to enjoy the dialogues in this show a whole lot more than I thought it would. This show is often talked about being like the best fighting anime and just the animation in general, but the most underrated part of it for me personally remains how different characters, sometimes with different motivations or mindset, interact with each other. For example, when Sukuna took over Yuji's body and attacked Megumi after fighting the special grade, the only emotion strong enough to bring him back in control of his own body was when Megumi finally told him about his philosophy and how he was only gonna save those he wants to save, and for that reason, he's never once regretted saving Yuji. And to me, that was peak dialogue. Cause that's a legitimate question that was in Itadori's head. Why did you save me? And he was ready to let it go all at that moment when he finally got his answer. So yeah, this scene in particular gave me goosebumps. And speaking of Itadori, his character arc is definitely one of my favorites. Everything is perfectly set up for him to evolve into what he needs to be, to fulfill his promise to his dead grandfather. Itadori was always a very gifted kid, but he didn't have any purpose or any specific goals. And by passing away and leaving him on his own, symbolically, it allowed Yuji to get his purpose, in the form of the promise he made, to save as many as he can and to be surrounded by people when he dies. And that left such a mark on Yuji that it became his whole purpose. But I have so much to say about Yuji's character arcs especially that I'll make a separate video just for it. Another one of my favorite is definitely Todo, who serves as this perfect older brother figure to Yuji, I guess. And if you have a big brother, you know what I mean. You can ask your father to teach you something, you can ask your friend to teach you something, but when big bro steps in, you have to step up too. And that's exactly the role that Todo served in Yuji's training at that point. I think he benefited more from learning a bit from him at the time than if he had spent the same time with Gojo, for example, or Megumi. And at that point, it was perfectly executed through a very well written chemistry, dialogue, and fight scene. So yeah, when Yuji started linking up with Todo, it had me hyped. When Todo told Yuji that I am not gonna step in unless you master Black Flash. And Yuji had no choice but to, because he couldn't defeat Hanami alone. So he needed Todo's help, and Todo showed why he's one of the strongest characters in this verse. I guess he has to be, right? He has to be one of the strongest in this verse. But his power works in an optimal way when he's fighting with someone, when he's jumping someone basically. And who better than Yuji to jump a demon with? Their chemistry is made very evident with the boogie woogie fight scene, the Black Flash training, and all of that. And of course there's characters that I just find interesting or iconic. Of course there's Gojo, who just seems untouchable, but I'm gonna talk about him a bit later. One character in particular that I'd be more interested to learn about a bit is actually this Toge guy who keeps talking about salmon and sashimi. He's really my highlight of this season, I ain't gonna lie. He's my MVP, and I can't wait to know more about him, if there's more to know at least. So yeah, the characters in this show and how they're written definitely stood out more than some from the other shows I've watched. Now, for another point, nostalgia. JJK is clearly heavily inspired by Naruto. This might seem like a bad thing in theory, but it really isn't. And while I found it annoying in some other animes like Black Clover, for example, where the parallels were just kind of plain and obvious and it was kind of lame, to be honest, Jujutsu made the same parallels but with a twist, whether it be with the character design, the team structures, two guys, one simple-minded, one emo, and one strong-willed girl. A setting of rankings, grade A, special grade, just like Chunin, Jonin, and even the school tournament, which was basically the Chunin exam force trial redone all over, with the invaders sneaking in the tournament like Orochimaru and his minions did, and messing it up from the inside while creating a barrier, exactly like in Naruto basically. But like I said, they were extremely well made, so I found myself appreciating a lot more and enjoying the nostalgia. So now let's talk about the villains, and I gotta get something off my chest. I hate this motherfucker Mahito with passion. At first he was introduced as kind of a neutral character, at least that's how it felt to me, not evil, not kind, just learning as he goes, and I fucked with it, heavily. Testing his abilities and living his philosophy, just trying to find strong people to fight. But when my boy Junpei got involved, that was the end of it for me. That was the end of the story for me. I have to say I've rarely been this affected by a character's death, or a character's tragedy in general. The way his mom died, he got bullied, he lost his mother, and he got bullied then lost his mother by the guy who bullied him, which just fueled his rage, made him trust Mahito, to then just being used and manipulated just to finally be turned into a monster and basically beg for death by the end of the only friend he had. Oh my god, I literally had to take a break after that episode because they hyped Junpei up too. They put him in the opening, made us hopeful that he would get his happy ending at Jujutsu Tech. Yuji was telling him about it, like, hey, come join us. But yeah, at that moment, I think it was confirmed for me that Mahito was going to be Itadori's nemesis, like Itadori's arch nemesis, not Sukuna. Because for a guy who was talking about how he could never kill anyone because then the idea of killing would step into his mind, to just say that with such rage that he was going to kill you. Yeah, there's no going back after this one, Mahito. You're going to have to fight him. And Sukuna seems more interested in Gojo or Megumi, and I have my own theory about that, which I'm going to talk about soon. Apart from Mahito and Hanami, they weren't really nothing special. Good villains, but no villain really stood out to me in terms of like personality or goals, or there's no like Madara Uchiwa, or there's no Doflamingo, or there's no like, you know, those types of villain that you have to question yourself about their intentions and if they're really villains. But at the same time, I guess I'm not at that point in the story where I really know what they want, you know? It's not like I know a lot about their motivation and goals at this time. I just know that they want to establish a new world order, and for that, they need Sukuna. That's all I know about them and their group in general. So yeah, pretty basic villain, apart from Mahito and Hanami, but I hope that there's more to them, because if not, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed. So yeah, not bad for the villains, but nothing special. But emotion-wise, damn, I'm gonna need some time to get over some of these scenes, man. Now, for the final point of this video, fighting. I gotta say that everyone was right. The fights on this show are on a whole other level. The average JJK fight is on par with some of the best Naruto Shippuden fight. That's how good it is. My personal favorite right now has to be Toge and Megumi versus Hanami. I liked how Toge pushed his limits trying to hold off Hanami while trying to find a way out of the building, knowing it was getting weaker and weaker every time he spoke. It gave it a sense of urgency, And that's something that all the fights in this show has. A sense of urgency. You never feel like the fights are just there to be hype. Every fight has implications, and every fight has consequences at the end of it. And yeah, I like the Boogie Woogie fight as well. And the final fight against the two brothers at the end was good too, but I didn't really understand the purpose of it, except to show off Nobara and Yuji, like their chemistry and relationship and all of that, because we didn't really have any scenes of them, like them two together. It was always amongst other people. So I guess the author wanted to show us what was the type of relation that these two had and how they could correlate and have a fighting chemistry, like we saw with Megumi and Yuji, like we saw with Yuji and Todo, like we saw with Megumi and Toge. The only one that we didn't really see any teamwork out of was Nobara. So I guess that's why they made this fight, and also to show us that Yuji swallowing the fingers really did emit like a sensor, Bluetooth sensor, that activated all the other fingers, and they were gonna start attracting more powerful demons. I also liked Gojo versus Sukuna in the beginning, but I have a problem with Gojo, to be honest. Like I said, he seems too perfect, and with Infinity, he just seems to be broken. I don't even know who could compete with him. Like, he's literally invulnerable. You cannot touch him, hurt him, or even get close to him if he doesn't want you to. But with characters like that, you already know something is gonna happen. Just like Escanor in Seven Deadly Sins. When you have an invincible character like that, for the sake of the plot, for the sake of the story, he's gonna have to be nerfed. Somebody stop him. So he's either gonna be sealed, like in some type of way, like they tried to do with the barrier. They're gonna seal him. I know they were talking about how they sealed Sukuna. He's either gonna become a villain, because I don't really know what he's up to be honest, or he's gonna be killed, which I don't think is possible because of Infinity, but this might happen. They're gonna have to get rid of him. But my theory is, with what I've been led to believe, that the story is clearly leading up to Yuji and Mahito being arch enemy, and Sukuna being arch enemies with Gojo and Megumi. So let me tell you what I think is gonna happen, and if I'm that wrong, you can laugh at me in the comments. I think that it's gonna be Sukuna and Sukuna and Megumi versus Gojo. Gojo is gonna do most of the job, but when he's gonna be defeated one way or another, Megumi is gonna have to finish the job, killing Yuji in the process, as it's the only way to get rid of Sukuna. And they've set that up since the beginning, that Yuji is set to be executed once he gets all the fingers. So it will be a perfect end if in the end he does sacrifice himself to accomplish his purpose, his mission. And as the way that I think Gojo could be defeated, to be honest, I don't even know how you can hurt him. But the only thing that I can think of is the domain expansion. Gojo himself said that one way to beat a domain is to activate your own domain, and the more powerful one will win. So I think 20 Fingers Sukuna will get his ass beat, straight up. But then by some trickery or something, he's gonna be able to seal Gojo inside his own domain, and Megumi is gonna have to fight him. So that's my theory concerning the final fights. So let me know what you guys think about my theory without spoilers. Please don't ruin it for me. And also tell me what you liked about JJK. I'd love to talk about that show with someone watching this. And you know, I've actually not been that up to date with new animes. So if there's any anime show that you would like me to watch and then analyze in a video, let me know. And I'll do it. Jane.